Have you ever found yourself stopping in your tracks because you saw a long queue? And before you even knew what was being sold, your curiosity started buzzing? You might glance over, tilt your head a little, and ask a stranger, "What's this line for?" And they might reply, "Oh, I think it's for some new pastry," or, "Apparently, this shop just opened today." And without realizing it, something inside you whispers, "Maybe I should join too." It's fascinating, isn't it? A queue looks simple, just people standing in a line. But it's actually one of the most interesting psychological phenomena in daily life. A queue isn't just a line of people, it's a line of stories, of emotions, of shared human instincts. 1. The line as a symbol of fairness. At its core, a queue represents fairness. It doesn't matter who you are, your wealth, your background, your social status. When you stand in a queue, everyone is equal. First come, first served. Simple but deeply powerful. Psychologists call this procedural justice, the belief that as long as the process is fair, we can accept almost any outcome. That's why when someone cuts the line, it doesn't just annoy us, it offends us. It feels like a small act of injustice, because what they've really violated isn't just the order of people. They've broken an unspoken rule of trust. A broken queue feels like a broken rule of life. You didn't earn your turn. So, when we stand in line, we're not merely waiting. We're participating in a quiet social code, a code that reassures us the world can still be fair if we all agree to wait our turn. That's powerful, because in so many parts of life, jobs, relationships, success, fairness feels uncertain. But in a queue, at least for a while, the world makes sense. 2. The hidden power of anticipation. Now, let's talk about something we all feel but rarely name. Anticipation. There's a strange magic in waiting. When we queue, our brains start to release dopamine, not when we receive the reward, but before we receive it. Psychologists call this anticipatory reward processing. Think about it. Children waiting for ice cream, fans queuing overnight for concert tickets, travelers lining up at the gate, excited to board. Half the joy is in the waiting itself, because while we wait, we imagine. We daydream about what it will feel like when it's finally our turn. In that sense, we don't just queue for the thing, we queue for the feeling. Anticipation turns time into meaning. It gives our patience a purpose. It lets us live for something just ahead. And sometimes, that imagined joy, that little spark of almost there, is stronger than the reward itself. 3. The crowd effect. Why we follow the line. Now, let's revisit the most phenomenon in the introduction. Why do people line up for something they don't even understand? You've seen it before, a long line outside a shop. You don't know what it's selling, but somehow it must be good, right? Psychologists call this social proof. It's a mental shortcut. When we're uncertain, we assume that if many people are doing something, it must be the right thing to do. It's a deeply ancient instinct. Thousands of years ago, if everyone in your tribe was running in one direction, you didn't stop to ask why. You ran too. That instinct helped us survive. Today, it manifests in safer, and sometimes sillier, ways. We see a crowd and think, they must know something I don't. And so, we follow. Not always because we want what's at the front, but because we trust the crowd. It's our way of saying, I don't want to be left out. I don't want to miss what others are experiencing. We don't queue for the item. We queue for validation, for belonging, for a sense of connection to others' excitement. 4. Queuing as a social experience. Now, let's look at another layer. The queue as a social experience. When you're standing in line, you're not just waiting. You're part of a temporary community. You might chat with the person ahead, exchange small smiles, share a sigh of impatience, or complain together about how slow it's moving. It's strangely human. Because in that short moment, strangers become companions in a shared inconvenience. That's why queuing culture is so strong in some societies, like Japan, the UK, or Singapore. Here, queuing represents more than discipline. It represents respect. Respect for time, for order, for one another. And in a world filled with chaos, a simple, structured line can feel oddly peaceful. Everyone knows what to do. Everyone has a place. It's stillness within movement, a tiny reminder that order can exist, even in the middle of a noisy city street. 5. The fear of missing out. FOMO. But there's also another emotion that drives us to queue. Fear of missing out. In today's world, everything happens fast. Trends, sales, announcements, even happiness. We scroll endlessly, watching others enjoy things we didn't even know existed. So, when we see a line, we wonder, what if I'm missing something amazing? That's FOMO, and it's one of the most powerful motivators of modern behavior. Marketers know this very well. That's why they use phrases like limited edition, only 50 available, exclusive drop. These words tap into our deep-seated fear of being left behind. Scarcity makes things seem valuable, even if we don't actually want them. So we join the line, not because we need what's at the end, but because we crave the feeling of being included. We queue not just for the object, but for the story we can tell. I was there. I got one. I didn't miss out. 6. The queue as a mirror of ourselves. Here's where it gets even more interesting. A queue, in many ways, is a mirror of human nature. Watch people in line, and you'll see tiny reflections of personality. The impatient ones sigh, shuffle, check their watches, they crave control. The calm ones scroll their phones or hum quietly, they've learned to cope with uncertainty. The chatty ones strike up conversation. They turn waiting into connection. And then there are those who stand quietly, just observing. They look around, lost in thought. For them, the queue becomes almost meditative, a rare pause in the noise of life. Maybe that's what queuing really gives us, a moment to stop, breathe, and be present. In a world obsessed with speed and instant gratification, queuing teaches us to wait. It reminds us that some things are earned through patience, not urgency. 7. The deeper lesson. What queues teach us about humanity. When you think about it, the act of queuing might be one of the purest demonstrations of collective trust. We trust that others will respect the order. We trust that our turn will come. We trust that the system, however small, will be fair. And that trust is beautiful. In a queue, your social status doesn't matter. Your wealth doesn't move you forward. You stand as equals, all waiting for the same thing. It's a rare and precious kind of equality. Maybe that's why queuing feels sacred, because it represents something we wish the larger world could be: fair, orderly, respectful. When you really think about it, a queue is a tiny model of society, a glimpse of how harmony looks when everyone does their part. 8. The quiet psychology of hope. And then, there's something deeper still. Hope. Every queue is built on hope. Hope that the coffee will taste amazing. Hope that the ticket will be worth it. Hope that your turn will come. In that sense, queuing is not about boredom or frustration. It's about belief. Belief that waiting leads to reward. Belief that patience pays off. Belief that time, even slow, silent time, still has value. And maybe that's why queuing feels so human. Because life itself is one long queue. We're all waiting for chances, for growth, for love, for meaning. We wait in lines, but we also wait in life. And in both, the same truth applies. Those who wait with patience often find beauty along the way. Closing reflection. So the next time you find yourself drawn to a long line, whether it's for a cup of coffee, a sneaker drop, or even something you can't quite name, pause for a moment. Notice what's really happening. You're not just waiting. You're participating in something deeply human. You're showing trust, exercising patience, and joining a quiet collective act of hope. Because in the shuffle of feet, the soft murmur of conversation, and the occasional sigh, there's a shared rhythm, the rhythm of humanity learning, once again, how to take turns. And that is what makes queuing so much more than a line. It's a reminder that fairness still matters, that patience still exists, and that sometimes just waiting together is what keeps us human. We are, after all, creatures of hope, and every queue, in its own quiet way, is a line of hope, leading us towards something worth the wait.